Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate it. And welcome to another edition of the Pick and Downs podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
Doing well, man. March Madness finally wrapped up. Congratulations, Zoo, for making the perfect chalk pick of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, man. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what's funny, Zoo? I don't know if you were tracking this at all on the ESPN app, but the celebrity contest, you see who ended up finishing at
Oh
the
yeah,
top?
Carlos Boozer, right?
Carlos Boozer.
Carlos Boozer.
Oh, man, the biggest overpaid legend in Bulls history besides Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, man. So, oh, man, it's been an interesting March Madness. I thought the women's did great. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit too, but it's draft season, baby. It is NFL draft season right around the corner, so I'm pumped as a Bears fan, man.
Man, all I gotta say, March Madness, man, more like UConn season, man. The UConn Invitational right now, because going back to back, that hasn't happened in over a decade. So a lot of people had a little doubts about him, but Vegas obviously had UConn as the favorite. They deserved to be the favorite. They were by far the best team in the tournament. That's why you put futures bet on Goliaths like this, because they squashed every team, no contest, covered the spread in 6 consecutive games again in the tournament, blowing out every single team they played against. Not gonna lie, not like none of the games got scary. It reminded me of the
Bama a little bit, Zoo.
Yeah, that was a little scary, but they won by 14.
Pulled away in the end.
They pulled away at the end, and Sears was playing out of his mind and looking like a legit. Like this guy looks like I'm surprised this guy will not be like a second round pick at least, because he looks really, really good. Like he's a smaller point
Brunson
guard.
in him.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, maybe he's a lefty, he's physically strong, he dominates the ball, plays a lot like Brunson, but yeah, like that was the team probably gave him the most scare in the tournament, and that wasn't even the championship game. But shout out to Zach Edey, he balled out, but the UConn Huskies, the Goliath that we all saw coming, and thank you very much, UConn, for making me very, very profitable on that day, man. It's a beautiful day, beautiful day betting on winners. Winners win.
Listen, UConn, I'm most proud of, like if I was a UConn fan, and an alumni, whatever, is the fact that people are now starting to have the conversation about them being a true blue blood.
Oh,
I think it kind of I think, but what I mean by blue blood is like I think there are people looking at them now. It's like they are kind of not passing UConn or like UNC Duke, but like the conversation, feels like it's always UNC, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky. Now it's kind of needs to be like UConn. I mean, Kansas, I guess, won that whatever year, but they've kind of had their lows. Like UNC, Duke kind of alternated. Everybody used to go to the de facto UCLA, but it's like UCLA won all their freaking championships with Wooden.
Same with Indiana.
So it's like, Indiana too, but it's like UConn now is like the program, I feel like, in college basketball. It's not like, I know UNC Duke is the most popular. They probably got more fans, but it's like, if you're a kid that was born in whatever and you're like 17 years old, you're probably thinking like, yeah, you think of UConn first. And I think that's what they're now becoming. They're the first team that should come out of your mouth. And it kind of just speaks to just their coach who,
Hurley.
I think he's a great coach. I sometimes get a little annoyed with this. He feels a little theatrical on the sideline. It just feels like he's kind of playing it up a little bit, but he is a hell of a coach. And the thing with him too is he kind of has adopted the philosophy of, let me get like 1 or 2 5-stars, and let me get the rest of like really good college basketball players who, potentially could develop. Like I think I was seeing they had an unranked guy. The guy actually, I think he was the MVP, wasn't he, of the Final Four? I can't remember his name.
Tristan Newton.
Yeah, I think he was unranked. Like he wasn't ranked, and now
he was not a huge like 5-star recruit
player, and now he's one of their better players on the team. So he has the right philosophy, unlike some coaches like Calipari, where you just amass all the talent, and guess what? Now you're coaching at Arkansas because it's like you're coaching at Arkansas because you're friends with the guy like Tyson. I don't know if you guys read that story. Like he's friends with the Tyson Chicken CEO.
Yeah,
and it's like
he's a billionaire.
All this NIL money.
Of course,
it's like all right. I was like, all right, whatever. Maybe he'll change his philosophy.
And let's be honest, Sean. He's kind of been going downhill the past couple of years. He left to lock
No,
in a
yeah,
lucrative contract before
yeah.
he really fell
Mhm.
down the cliff, and then he wasn't going to get anything. So Arkansas is a good program too. They're always
Yeah,
relevant.
they got history, and they got,
Mhm.
and the thing is, people like I said, they got Tyson Chicken in one hand, and they got Walmart. So like they have money, to
Yep.
splurge on, and that's why they were able to get Calipari. But enough about him. Like I said, with the national championship game, you know, UConn, Purdue. I think most people were. I mean, I guess if you're a chalk person, you knew UConn and was going to be there, and Purdue. They had some falters in the past, but after seeing them get past the teams they did, they ended up matching up in the final. And I want to get the guys' opinions on what they thought of the game last night. And people, you can start us off.
Man, I got to start off right. This stat right here, Zoo. I didn't even notice this until the end of the game. Everybody talked about the 3-pointers, right? They only took 7 3-pointers for them, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
But also a testament to UConn's perimeter defense, which, funny enough, I'll make this quick comment on that. Charles Barkley said, stop double teaming Edie in the post because their entire game is feeding it to him, right? And then he kicks out for a nice 3. That's literally how they got to the championship game in the first place. UConn said, screw that. We're going to keep doing it and say, all right, Edie's going to feel like this entire game is on his shoulders. Man had a monster game, man. He had 37 on 60% shooting with 10 boards. He did get out rebounded, which was actually pretty interesting. Klingon just a bit more athletic. But the stat that I was most surprised by, Purdue had 8 assists. All 8 were Braden Smith. Not one other player on that
That's
floor had
crazy.
an assist in that
crazy.
game. That I've never seen that before. And I mean, you could argue once again back to the point that it was kind of a dump down to Edie, and half the time he was making a bucket or missing it. But man, there's something about his game when he gets too low, he just misses every single time. It's like maybe it's Klingon, facing us another 7-footer for the first time.
I don't think he's physical at the basket. He needs to dunk more.
He's really not.
But that's just me.
And, no one else was hitting shots. Braden Smith early in the game was the only guy giving him any little bit of health. He had a couple nice jumpers, tough finishes at the rim. But he finished 4 for 12, man. So if you look at these numbers here, I mean, everyone besides Edie shot 31% from the field, 9 of 29, and he had 37 of their 60 points. That's the definition of their season. They had their window, Zoo, when they had Jaden Ivey. That was their window with 2 obviously Edie was a bit more raw at that time, but his size was still a deciding factor in most of their games that season. They had the good guard and they lost it. Matt Painter he couldn't recruit guys to help Edie. You could put as many 3-point shooters around him, but you need a ball handler. Like I said, Braden Smith still had 8 assists, which is a great game in college. You don't see that often, getting that many assists. But man, Purdue, they were fighting Goliath and they were a number 1 seed, man. And that just shows the true testament of how much of a gap there was between UConn and every other team. And shout out their guard play, man. Both Newton and Castle, they combined for 35, 36 points. That's what wins you games, man. The streak is alive, too. The trend continues.
I'm telling you, the power of the trend. I'm telling you, the AP poll trend is shockingly accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, week 4, week 6, UConn was one of 4 teams that fit the trend with the guard play. And as we saw, with the guard play, because Purdue was one of the teams that I was looking at. I was like highly considering because they had Zach Edey, but I was looking at their guards and none of them looked like NBA prospects, even though, like, as you mentioned, the man with 8 assists, he's pretty good. He had a nice little dunk too, like pretty nice game, but not an NBA level guard. And you got not only 2 guards that probably Castle's a projected first round pick, even though I think he's definitely more of a role player because, like, the way he plays, even in college basketball, guy cannot shoot at all. Like, you saw the last previous game, they left him wide open on 3-point shots, and his shot is clearly broken. It's just like they have the Ben Simmons treatment on him. Like, he just no one respects his jump shot, even though he hit a couple open threes, so he ain't that broken, but it's a broken jump shot. But his ability to hustle, like, and get to the rim, he has a nice floater game. Like, his physicality, like, he's a 6'6" guard with, like, I wouldn't say elite athleticism. He has good athleticism. So that's what makes him a little different, especially at the collegiate level. But I got to shout out Tristan Newton. He had a hell of a performance and obviously winning the most outstanding player in the Final Four in the championship game. And this guy's a senior guard, 6'5". He has really good size, averaged 15 points, 7 assists in, like, college basketball. So he, as a guard in college basketball, this guy was an elite guy at the collegiate level, and he controlled the pace of the game. And if you watch this UConn team, I always kept saying their execution on offense and defense, they never get too high, they never get too low. They run their sets they run their sets better than some NBA teams.
Much better.
Their motion offense, they keep moving. I never see them just dribble, and just not move.
No one's camping.
No one's camping. The motion offense just keeps going, and they always get a good look. Like, even when they miss an open three, they always get a good look. Like, if Caravan misses open three, it's always a good look. Cam Spencer, that guy was a transfer that came in. He had a monster game. Like, this guy could really – he started the UConn strong was shooting the basketball. And, my God, like, Klingon in the first half, he struggled a little against Edey. Like, Edey was eating him up, but they stuck with the game plan, as you mentioned, that we're going to force Edey to beat them. And Edey had to play like every minute. I think he sat out like 2 minutes when the game was when the game is over. So Zach Edey, they knew that this guy was going to get tired. And that's what happens when you play like close to 40 minutes of the game. And at the end, you saw in the second half, even though his stats are still pretty good, more like garbage time. Like, the game was pretty much over when they were up 15 with a couple minutes left. So you got a couple like easy dunks and stuff. But you saw him getting tired. You saw him missing a little more bunnies in the second half, because in the first half, he was destroying Klingon.
Yep.
And they kept doing the one-on-one coverage. And I like Hurley. Like, Hurley's like, yeah, we're going to up the pace. He talked about the pace. We're going to run it up and down, make Edey get tired. And that was their game plan, and make Edey try to beat him in one-on-one coverage and prevent the three-point shot. Like, when you got a team that's shooting 40%, that's the only way to beat UConn. You see their other losses in the regular season, Kansas, Seton Hall, they shot what I think one team shot 60% from three. So it takes elite three-point shooting.
And they only took 7.
Yeah, to beat this team. And they're pretty much their game plan, as you mentioned. No threes. We'll live with twos. And in the execution in the half-court offense, I'm taking UConn Huskies every time. And pretty much like this is a team that's very, very mature, very anti-college basketball. I don't see I always see teams in March Madness get a little too nervous, but every time I just see them settle down. They get punched in the face and make a run. They make a run back. Like, they never get too high, never get too low. Even though Dan Hurley, that guy's one of the most emotional head coaches in college basketball I've ever seen. And he kind of I don't remember even in the second half, he pushed one of his guys.
Yes,
during the game.
Not his son, but it's one of his.
Cam Spencer. I remember Cam Spencer. They're trying to set the offense, and he pushed, and I was like, "What are you doing, man? Yes. I know you guys are up double digits, but you cannot do that because that's a turnover right there." So that was kind of crazy, but I got to give them. This guy's still a hell of a head coach, because the expectation was not for UConn to repeat after losing so many people to the NBA, but they were able to recruit and get guys from the transfer portal to come in and pretty much remix this team and get it done, because they lost significant NBA players in Jordan Hawkins and Adama Sanogo, and they just fit in new pieces and ran it back. And this tournament run was probably better because their point differential in the tournament historical.
Dude, I will say, I do think, and I remember we talked about this last year with Sanogo when he came out for a couple minutes throughout the tournament. Klingon came in and did.
Oh yeah. I noticed immediately. This guy was athletically very good for a 7'2" guy.
They had their best player locked in and just built guards via recruiting and transfer. It was perfect. I mean, I think that, I don't want to say lucky because they recruited Klingon, but they're lucky that he honestly didn't have to see the court that much last year, because he might have entered the draft last year if Sanogo wasn't what he was doing. So it's exactly what's set up, and maybe that's why Dan Hurley said, "You better watch out because you're not going to get us for a couple years," because he knew the pipeline that he had coming down. So shout out to their entire staff, man, from scouting to coaching. Yeah.
And Sean, as you mentioned, UConn, blue blood, they are the blue blood program. This is, in the last 25 years, this team has 6 NCAA championships. 6 NCAA championships, and that was under different head coaches, different iterations of the team. And being able to dominate that much in a game that has a lot of turnover with players is absolutely absurd. They have 7 Final Four appearances in 24 years. Final Four rate of 28%. And every time this team makes it to the championship game, they get it done, man. Undefeated. That is actually undefeated. So it was a guarantee. When I saw them blow a team, I'm like, man, barbecue chicken alert, man. Like UConn Huskies, like it was really obvious for me this year. I had zero doubt. Like just watching them, like before the tournament, obviously they were the number 1 seed, but they truly deserved it. And this is no shock at all. That's why I was like, when any other team there was no chance. It was inevitable. It was inevitable that this team won it all, and they got it done, and they didn't choke at all. Because I told you, if they lost, I thought it would have been a choke job because they were by far the best team in college basketball.
Yeah, I thought and I said this, I thought they were have a worse chance of losing probably to Bama than Purdue.
For sure.
Pace, just because of the pace. But it was a hell of a run, man. Hell of a run.
I think with UConn too, to your point, Zoo, about them doing it under different iterations. That's what I kind of respect more about the not just UConn, but programs itself. Like, I think it shows more about what you're individually building as a program when you could bring in another head coach and you're still able to get the same result. Like with Duke, all respect to them, but it's like they got most of their championships or all the championships with Coach K. So it's like it's yet to be seen what they be able to do with another head coach. Like, they're always going to be able to still recruit, and that's part of what Coach K built. I mean, even I think I want to say UNC's gotten championships. Yeah, they got Dean Smith and Wolverine. Yeah. So like they've had at least
they had Roy Williams, and then
and you could same with Kansas, right? Wasn't Roy Williams there before, and then Bill Self after?
Yeah, and then Bill Self took it over. So it's like I respect those programs a little bit more, but I do think UConn now is kind of separated themselves as one. I mean, UConn, I guess, is a smaller school. I mean, their football program is not because that's what dictates in terms of money made and prestige in your, respective conferences is like football is the one that brings in the most money. So to me, seeing UConn is just basically a basketball only school. And, it says something too. I know people love to talk about the Northeast in terms of basketball, and it still is elite, but it's like a lot of people are moving down south. And then that's why you would see in SEC that you're still having these teams come and play at a high level because a lot of the better players are down south now. So like UConn, I give them a lot of props because they did have lulls where they wasn't the best, but they proved it. I watched the game. Full disclosure, I fell asleep in the second half because I just kind of felt like UConn, even though, it was a good game in the first half, I just felt like UConn was going to win. You guys kind of pretty much covered everything in terms of the analysis of it. The one thing I will say is, Edie, I don't know if I made this joke on the pod, but I was like, I think I said, get ready to learn Chinese, buddy, because I don't think he's going to do anything in the NBA. But I'm kind of changing my tune of like, maybe, and I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts, like, where do you think his ceiling is? Because I saw something online where they were like, I know it's still guard and wing dominated in the NBA, but there still is a place for the big man if he has like a specific skill set. And so what does worry me is when the pace in NBA is up and down, like he'll get played off the floor. Like that's the one major concern. Like I don't know if he's going to be able to, how they always say, like when it's down to the final 5 or 6 minutes, he's probably getting in the fourth quarter. He's probably getting taken off the floor because he's a liability. But I'm always wondering, like, this draft is so bad. Like, who I could see them just drafting and it'd be like, okay, put you in a farm system and we'll figure it out and we'll bring you up when you're ready. Is OKC. Because they have everything but a guy that's big in the middle. So it's like, we're not going to need Edie to go off for 25, 20 points a night. Just be a defensive presence, maybe get a couple rebounds, develop. I don't think I can ever see him developing a 3-point shot, but it's like develop something to where you have one post move so you can draw fouls and be decent at the free throw line. I'm kind of changing my tune on like, I think he could be a backup and could be on a roster.
He's serviceable.
I don't think he's going to be overseas being like, just putting up a bunch of points overseas. That's what I kind of noticed. Because Klingland, to me, I almost think last year, even if he did play a lot, he probably would have left because he would have been a first-round pick. But I think it almost was the best decision coming back because he might be a top 5 pick now. How bad the draft is.
With this draft, absolutely.
He's going to make even more money.
I saw a lot of people have him projected at like 10 right now. I think that moves up.
He's probably going way up because this draft is pretty.
No consensus, 1 or 2.
It is. It's a lot of, and the thing about it too is a lot of tweener type guards. It's like a lot of 6'2.5", 6'3" guards where it's like they should be able to have point skills, but they're really just gunners. But I mean, that's kind of, I don't know what you guys think. I want to ask you, like, do you think Edey, like, what do you think is, like, do you think he could be, I just thought this right now, do you think he could be a Zubac? Like, his highest of ceiling? You think he could be that? Or do you think it's like, that's asking too much?
Probably. I think all right, maybe not. Now, Zubac was definitely a benefit of who he was playing with, right? I think that he always has been, just being on the Clippers.
I mean, if you play with Shea, you might be Zubac. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I do think, I actually think the Thunder's a great fit, just because you need any team that, or hell, you could even say the Spurs, a team that needs just kind of a guy to come in and save fouls from Chet or Victor Wembanyama, right? If he can come in and kind of be the, what do they call him, Zoo? Like the Brian Cardinal back in the day, man, the janitor. He just goes in to kind of take some fouls, clean up, grab some boards, give him a little bit of a rest, eat those fouls, right, and just kind of be a size factor. I just think he'll be a decent backup in the league. I can't really make a direct comparison because his size is so massive.
Yeah, he's so tall.
He's not like Bol, because Bol can shoot, right?
And move a little bit better.
Yeah, he's a way better athlete.
Right? This guy's he's the definition of like a 2000s backup.
Yeah. Traditional back to the basket center.
Yep.
And pretty much this guy, I feel like the center position has come back with Jokic and Embiid. You need a guy off your bench just to play 5 to 10 minutes in guarding these absolute freaks of nature.
Yep.
And just having a big body off the bench. And I think that's his perfect role. Off the bench, he can play 5 to 10 minutes, give him some good minutes, get some rebounds. Like he showed he moving his feet a little better than last year. He's like increases agility, block some shots, and be like a rim protector for 5 to 10 minutes. And have that burst of energy off the bench and
do that twice a game.
Exactly. And that's all you need for him to be. He doesn't have to be a starter putting up 25 points to be like a legitimate player. Like this guy could be a role player off the bench and play that role for the rest of his career. And like he's 7'4". Like there's not many 7'4" dudes, and he's not like completely lack of skill like Tristan Thompson. He got a little more skills than like a Tristan Thompson. He can go in the post. Like if he gets a guy that's actually smaller than him.
And look what Tristan Thompson got paid.
Tristan Thompson got paid $15 million a year thanks to the LeBron James system. But like Zach Edey, like if you have a small dude on him, like you put like a 6'7", 6'8" dude on Edey, he could go into the post and make a jump hook against this guy. So against like really big matchups, like the thing is he needs to fit with the big that's mobile, like a guy that's more perimeter-based guy that's an elite defender that can play inside and outside, like with like a Bam Adebayo or like a Victor Wembanyama, like some guy that has elite like mobility on the outside too. So Zach Edey can play his drop coverage down in the paint and just be that complementary defender that protects the rim and just be a big body. Because sometimes
just sit there.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't need to be good at all. Sometimes you just stand there, go up straight, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Just be the great wall down there and like just don't have to move. So play your role. Like he's gonna get a nice, like as you said, this is a bad draft. So this guy might be a little higher like draft pick than normal years. But
I think he might go first round now. Bottom first round. I think he might.
Bottom first round. That's a guaranteed contract for like 4 years. So take it, Edey. Like I know you didn't get your NIL deal, but you're getting a fat little contract from the NBA, man. Try to maximize that. Hope you get to a situation that can maximize your ability, that knows what they're doing. Because, if you go to the Charlotte Hornets, it's over. But if you go to a well-run organization that can maximize your career, he needs a nice, good culture and good system and develop him. Because who knows? Maybe he develops a three-point shot in the future and becomes like a Brook Lopez type guy who can play drop coverage. Because Brook Lopez is very clumsy looking dude, but he plays his role and surrounding guys with Giannis and Drew Holiday and maximize his defensive ability when you have these elite perimeter defenders that helps him out. So maybe in a certain system scheme that Zach Edey could get maximized. So I feel like there's definitely a role for him in the NBA on the bench.
Brook Lopez, man, second in the league in blocks per game this year, man. He's still able to do it, man.
Yep. That's what Brook Lopez has always been a rim protector. Like that's his role. And even though he's
that's a good comp.
Not the fastest
that's a really good
comp. Guy. So
because he was kind of almost out of the league until he got that 3-point shot.
Yep.
And that's when his brother got pushed out the league because the brother couldn't develop that. Yep. Robin.
All he had was that.
I don't know. Maybe he wasn't as skilled. He might not have been as skilled as Brook anyways, but still, like Brook developed that 3-point shot. And then once you get that, defense has got to spread out, draw to you.
5 out.
Like you say, you come down, you just, and plus 2 playing with a mobile guy like Giannis, all he has to do is kind of just,
man the paint.
He helped him win that championship. That's for sure.
He was important.
He did.
It was very important. Yeah, very important.
Ayton, having him in,
Edey's got some blueprints to follow. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of, like I said, I kind of wanted to come back because I did watch the highlights this morning and I was just thinking, like, Edie ain't bad. Like I think, with this draft, bottom of the first round, like OKC should be like looking at the tape and be like, okay,
they got a lot of draft
this
picks.
guy.
They got a lot of draft picks, so they could.
Yeah,
spend
they
a
can
little
waste
guard
one
on Edie. Yeah,
they can waste
exactly.
one. I don't care.
Exactly.
Because to me, when it's at the bottom of the first round,
yeah, whatever.
It's basically like a second round.
You don't hit
pick.
on Jimmy Butler's
those guys
that
are probably not gonna
often,
be on the team.
let's be honest.
No, you
You
don't.
don't hit on guys
No,
like
you
Jimmy Butler at the end of the first.
No. So shout out to UConn. Like I said, they are the blue blood. I think they are the team to beat. Would not be shocked, especially how I've been seeing it going these last 2 years. If they, like I said, in the NCAA tournament, man, it's all about draws. So like if they get a favorable, section, like a West section or something that's maybe they're not a 1 seed next year, they're like a 2 or 3, but they get a favorable like side of the bracket, they could be in another Final Four, which we start with. If they would have just, I only want to say they're going to do a 3-peat, but if they were just even to get to Final Four next year, like good God, like now we're talking about this is the greatest like university basketball wise in all of college basketball. Respect to UCLA, but no, gotta relax with that. But like I said, again, full disclosure, like I said, I fell asleep in the second half of the UConn game, and part of that too is, the 9:20 stuff, not like
brutal boys.
Whatever. I get it. The West Coast is important, but it's like, come on, man. Like, can we just get at 8 o'clock? Can we get at 8 o'clock?
Beautiful. That's why you got to go Central Time, man. Central Time.
Yeah, it's just like, God, the 9:20 is just like, it's just not the move. But they can maybe take a note from the women's game where they had it at Sunday at 3 p.m. on ABC, which is feel like a perfect time for watching college basketball. And full disclosure, again, went to the University of South Carolina, so you know where my ties were, and I feel like it is necessary for me to start off. I will say, watching the first, I would say, this first half, or not first half, but first quarter, I was looking at it like, this doesn't seem like a game where South Carolina is like completely focused, because I felt like, the Indiana game was, I feel like, the game where they were like, we got past that game, and now it feels like they're going downhill, because people, I guess, underrated Indiana a little bit, but like I was saying, like, if they were to match it with Indiana, that might be one of their toughest games, because I just felt like they matched up with South Carolina a little bit well, and it proved to be true. But then once they got past them, it's like, NC State, whatever, Final Four, they were kind of like a Cinderella. Both of their teams were actually kind of Cinderellas, but going into that first quarter, I was just like, Caitlin's going off. And I kind of was looking at this like, you know what? I kind of understand the moment, because she has to do that for her team. I think she has to come out and set the tone. But I think the moment where I thought South Carolina shifted it was when they were getting blown out in their first quarter, and Dawn was just looking at the team, because she does that a lot. Now, she has taken a timeout or two, depending on if it was like a road environment. But when she didn't take the timeout, I was like, I feel good, because like she knows when, like, and plus too, she has girls are a whole lot different than guys, because there's a lot of leadership on these teams, because they're there for 4 years, and Dawn and South Carolina didn't have a lot of transfer stuff or transfer rates. But for me, the storyline, and which has been part of the reason why I've been more interested in the girls' game, and because I'm a University of South Carolina alum, but the Raven Johnson, Caitlin Clark storyline from last year, if no one's familiar with it, like. Raven Johnson as a player, the year before struggled as a shooter, and it was kind of evident because Caitlin Clark wasn't really the only one who like kind of sagged off on her. Now, it wasn't that bad in terms of like how she just sagged off to like under the free throw line, basically saying you have no shot at all. But girls were being disrespectful to Raven last year, and full disclosure, again, she did the wave off when Raven said like, I'm not worried about you, and Raven did not shoot well. And a year later, Raven didn't also shoot well again this year.
No,
she struggled with her shot.
1 for 11.
Yeah, but part of the reason, which goes to the depth of South Carolina, I think Dawn got in her face and was like, "Look, we need you to shut her down," and that's exactly what she did to Caitlin Clark. And I was so happy that she did that, because as much as we love Caitlin Clark, I think she has done amazing for the game. She is like, her ability to shoot from far away is exciting. We know that, and she's an efficient player. But in that game, when I'm not trying to compare the teams, but it's like you just going around chucking around these shots and being inefficient. That's not gonna win you the championship. And I know her players are not as good, but that's not going to happen. And part of the reason,
there was a massive talent gap, especially
Yes.
size.
Yes.
The size disparity was like 8th graders versus 5th graders. Like that was a size disparity because rebounding, man. The rebounding.
And Dawn, and see, and we talk about this in the NBA too with like scoring, right? Everybody's scoring like out of the wazoo. Like all these scores are like 125 to 110, and it's just like everybody has the ability to score now because they talk about you don't have hand checking. But if you look at South Carolina, like they were the number one most efficient defensive team, and Iowa was the number one most efficient offensive team. And Dawn, since she's gotten to South Carolina, has like emphasized like, hey, scoring will always take care of itself. But what's not negotiable is the ability to play defense. And I think every girl on that team, outside of maybe Kits and Pow Pow for a little bit, like they kind of are, but they're just such elite scorers. Like it doesn't really, that kind of offsets it. I think she got into Raven was like, look, you're struggling with your shot. Take it personal. Like Caitlin's been like, even though like people are kind of dismissing that she wasn't really doing it to Raven, but I think Raven, like she talked about it like over the, I guess said months before that, like it pissed her off a little bit. So, I think when I was looking at, because in the game, watching the Florida game, I knew she was bothering Clark, but I didn't know it was like to the point where I think Clark had 7 when she was a primary defender. Clark had 7 points, 3 of 11 shooting, 4 turnovers. And I think to me, when she had that 18 points in the first quarter, I was like, she's not going to be able to do that for the rest of the game. No. It's not happening. Like maybe if she was able to have like 10 and then another 10 and then maybe turn up in the second half, she's going to be able to do that. But I was more so just as an alum, I was more happy for Raven because it's like, salute to Clark. You're a great player. But you got shut down when Raven guarded you. And now you're having to depend on your teammates. They weren't going to come through for you because they're not as good. Nope. So to me, it's like what I was most proud of too is South Carolina. Like the whole year, Full Wiley, and I've mentioned this to you guys, like Full Wiley has been a person who Dawn has had to go up and down with her because she's a freshman. She kind of has this type of game where she is a point guard, but she kind of does. I mean, being young, you do flashy plays. But the thing with Full Wiley is once she came in the game and it was kind of second quarter where she was getting to play more, the tempo changed. Mm-hmm. And then you were able to see like even though she shot 4 out of 10, but when she was going up and down the court, it changed how South Carolina, their other guards started playing. And I think it helped Tessa, who was another person, like I said, Full Wiley, like got the Curry deal and she's the bigger name freshman. But Tessa Johnson signed to Clutch Sports. Like LeBron peeped her out when she was in, I guess, high school or middle school too. Like she can play too. So it's like she has the ability. She's just on that team. And the one thing you got to do when you come to South Carolina, you're not going to get the Naismith Awards. Like you're not going to get the, the first team All-American AP because you got too much talent on the team. So once I saw the freshmen come in and they were playing, like Tessa shot 50%, had 19 points, wasn't scared at all, was able to ball handle. I was like, South Carolina had control of the game. And for me, I think the story is Caitlin Clark. We get it. And due to the numbers, I mean, the fact
she gets ratings. Like that game had 18 million viewers.
And it peaked at 24, which is like that. Yep. That is like bigger than some football games, which is kind of just mind blowing, which is to the point of Caitlin. But I mean, salute.
You can only go so far with one person.
Yeah, she can only go so far. And this to me, I don't like the Taurasi and a couple other girls that are disrespecting her. I think it's just kind of they during their time when they were turning up, nobody was really caring.
They're jealous, man.
And I get it,
but it's a little jelliness, man.
It is I agree. I think it's both worlds. I think it's one, they're jealous because they wasn't as popular as her because when they were turning up, nobody was really caring about. I mean, not to be disrespectful, but nobody's really caring as much about women's basketball. But I also get their point of Caitlin ain't got no hardware. So she's a GOAT, quote unquote, but she ain't got no hardware. And in no other sport, when you don't have hardware, you can't be a GOAT. You can't. And let me give you a perfect example. If LeBron was the all-time leading scorer and did not have any rings, would you guys be like, yeah, he's one of the GOATs? Okay, you wouldn't say that.
It's 4 years in college, though. It's 4 years in college, though.
Diana Taurasi's 40 years old. She's playing the WNBA for 18 years. Give her some time.
I'm not just speaking directly on Taurasi. I'm just speaking of all the greats who are like considered GOATs that have hardware. Like
she's probably the GOAT of college. It's her and Maya Moore.
Talking about Taurasi?
Yeah. No, Caitlin Clark. She's the leading scorer.
You can't beat a GOAT if you ain't got no hardware, bro. You can't. Y'all changing the rules, bro. Y'all are changing the rules. No. Beat a GOAT if you didn't have hardware
in college.
This is 4 years. Because when you have a professional career, that could go 10 plus years. Okay, that is a larger sample size. This is 4 years in college basketball. 4 years is a very small sample size. Like when we say great players in college, like you don't have to be winning rings every year, and obviously. These guys in Uconn won it all because their teams are just stacked like ungodly. Like all these guys are future pros. And she decided to stay in Iowa and try to lead a team, her hometown team in college. And she almost pulled it off. Bring this team to the championship game back-to-back years, that is an accomplishment.
It's an impressive feat. It is a massive
accomplishment. And the way she had to carry the team, it really reminded me of LeBron James on that Cavaliers team versus the Warriors. It reminded me a lot. And not the team with Kyrie Irving. It was a team with Kevin Love and a bunch of Doritos, man. It was that J.R. Smith team. It was that team there. When you were watching, it was just inevitable. I was rooting for Caitlin Clark because that story is just so beautiful if she could beat the Goliath. But just even that first half, I was like, she's playing. Iowa's playing out of their mind, but I was like, nah, they're up now, and I'm like, I don't feel good at all because that other team is just built a little different.
Try to tell Caitlin in that first half though, when you definitely couldn't touch her at all. You definitely couldn't touch Caitlin at all, and she was shoving people down off of screens. Like that's why, I respect Caitlin and what she was doing, but the fix was in because they were trying to get Caitlin a championship. They was, and South Carolina smacked them up, and then Raven locked her up too. So it's like. I respect her, but it's like I didn't respect how the game was being played when they were playing against her because they wanted her to win. Because they wanted the importance of getting her a championship. It's like, what's the importance of her winning it if like she's already going to leave? Like they were trying to get her a championship because they know it's important for her to get a championship. Because now it's like the conversation changed. Go ahead.
I think everybody knew South Carolina was going to win that game. They're the best team. They're undefeated.
They were undefeated this year. They were undefeated,
right?
Yeah, they were undefeated.
So here's the thing. You're talking about an Iowa team that is a one-woman show, right? Kate Martin, she's got a pretty good game. You know, a couple of players.
Nice little mid-range.
Nice little mid-range. I mean, Stokey she did not show up in that game, though. And that was
but the game before.
I saw a lot of missed layups. Like that Caitlin Clark forward pass, and then they just botching layups. I'm like, oh my God.
The physicality got to her for sure. Yeah. But that's it. Like, that's the whole point, Sean. I don't think we're bashing South Carolina. I expected them to win that game.
They're the juggernaut. They're the UConn of women's basketball.
No. I'm not saying I was just as a South Carolina fan, I think more irritated with the coverage because it's like, bro, South Carolina is the 10th team ever to go undefeated. If you was, because I watched all of it. Like the fact that right when South Carolina won, you go to a documentary that's involving Caitlin Clark. Like that's BS. Like she lost. Stop. And then seeing
it. Take it easy. Okay, no.
Bro,
you know what? No.
Caitlin Clark in the face. She lost. You can't stop celebrating losers. You lost. She's 0-2. Angel Reese kicked her last year, and there she got beat again.
Who are they going to celebrate on South Carolina that same way? They can't because they're all so good. It's even. You just said
their team is
going to win in Naismith, so they're not going to get the. Yeah. It's almost like I'm trying to think of a similar men's college basketball team that was just so stacked. Honestly, the year that Kentucky made it where Booker was coming off the bench.
Oh yeah.
All right, some of those guys probably should have been up for Player of the Year, but they were all so good.
Similar style,
right? So you just it's money, Sean. It's
Caitlin Clark is the most marketable player in the history of women's basketball.
And that's what she Diana Taurasi being jealous.
Exactly.
And she pretty much right now she is the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird figure that's trying to save this league. Like when the NBA was struggling in the 70s, when games were on tape delay and players were on drugs, that was. NBA was irrelevant.
That was a crazy time.
That was a bad time.
That was a nasty time.
Exactly. That's that era of college basketball or women's basketball right now. We're in the 70s right now. And she is the face. Everybody knows that she's the face that has she's gotten me to stop watching Bulls games and put on a college basketball game. In a million years, I never thought I would have said that in my entire life because I was like, okay, women's basketball, I'd rather just watch men's because they're just superiorly better. But her entertainment, her marketability, the way she plays is very Steph Curry-ish.
I think it's the way she shoots those deep threes.
The way she shoots the deep threes that even in the NBA, there's not many people that are with her play style too. That Steph Curry play style. I can't name like 3 guys on my hands that people in the NBA that are pulling up for threes.
Just
like
Lillard.
that.
Dame,
exactly. Yeah, Dame and maybe Trae Young. But the way she does it on fast break, like I would say, exactly. So I'm just like she has changed the game. She's uplifted the game, and she's a superstar that put eyes on the sport.
I don't want to come off like I'm trying to say
she's gonna make money for everybody in the WNBA. She's gonna help everybody eat with the TV contracts that are coming up with the expiration. They got that because she pretty much she is the Messiah. She is the chosen one that could uplift this sport. And that's why everyone's praising her. And even though South Carolina, college basketball, they are awesome. They're the dynastic figure. But she's the one person that could save a league. And that's why they're praising her.
What I was just going to say is it's funny because my little sister went to Iowa. She's like in her cocoon of sadness, quote unquote, after they lost that game. And
my condolences.
She was like, look, South Carolina. She's like, look, they're just massive. And y'all were making everything from 3, which Sean, you could probably attest to this. That was their downfall last year.
That was their weakness. They couldn't shoot.
That was their weakness, and then they addressed it in transfer portal, etc. Obviously, their recruiting class. But we were looking at Chicago Sky tickets. Now, here's the thing: Caitlin Clark's obviously projected to go first overall to the Indiana Fever. All right, Chicago Sky tickets went on average from $30 a game to, if you buy that game in June, it's $100 a ticket. $100. Now, here's the thing. If you look at an Indiana Fever home game, all of the tickets only increase 10% because they get more volume of her playing there. But every away team, when she comes, is charging
skyrockets.
But you're seeing the LeBron. I'm not comparing her, but you're seeing the LeBron James.
She is. She's the chosen one.
The impact.
Yeah, so that's where I think, and back to you were talking about making it a game with the calls. I think that's exactly what they were doing. They weren't trying to get her a championship. They were just trying to keep the ratings and viewership a little similar in the first half, because if South Carolina got off to a strong start, it was over.
Yeah, people are going to drop down. It did reflect in the viewership. You're right, because it got to 18. Like I said, it peaked at 24, and it got to 18, and it actually beat the men's because the men's was at 14 million.
There you go.
So it was like 14.7. So it's like
I'm not saying they did it on purpose, but they wanted a competitive game, and the only way to do that was to let her have some space.
Listen, I can't be in. Listen, I'm fully admitting right now, like I'm completely biased because it's the university I root for.
Yeah, it's your school. It's your school.
Also will throw out more of a like behind the curtain. It's like if South Carolina was not playing to this level, I would still be watching because I do think they have an elite amount of players in women's basketball, and they're there for 4 years, so you're kind of able to recognize who they are. But it's like I wouldn't be as into it. So I was just looking at it from like I understand, like I do understand both sides of what people were talking about with Caitlin. Like I do get the people who like Caitlin Clark and understand the economics of like, dude, think about this logically. Like she's bringing more to the sport. She's growing, and even Dawn Staley has echoed that. She even echoed that during the post game championship service, which our post game that was a championship
high road move.
Yeah, she like acknowledged like because Dawn, when she was a hell of a player. If you go look at her Google history, like she knew that the women's game had the potential to be really big. A lot of it, what she's always echoed is people they were put support into it and then pull it out, and then put support into it and then pull it out, and they just didn't fully support because it's like when you're watching a women's game, just from the personalities, like you like to have teams like LSU who just feel like they're every 5 seconds they're mirroring what their head coach is, which is quote unquote a nutcase. Like I'm not the biggest Kim Mulkey fan, but they were mirroring that and they became the villains. You got someone like Iowa who's basically Caitlin Clark and 4 other people who got a college scholarship to play basketball. Then it's like you have South Carolina who's had this undefeated record. Then you have teams like out in Stanford, Cameron Brink, who's won Defensive Player of the Year. Like you have USC with Juju Watkins, Paige Becker's the comeback story, which I think would have
been awesome.
It wouldn't have been as big as Caitlin Clark, but like if they would have made it like her whole story and UConn is their brand, like that would have been massive for the game. So for me, it was just like I get both sides of like you see that with Caitlin Clark, but then I do also see some of the WNBA players who are like, or not WNBA players, but players who were well accomplished in college. It's like you're a GOAT, but you ain't us. Like I kind of was thinking about arguments like Maya Moore. If you ever go watch her highlights, if she was playing now, she would be on Caitlin Clark's level in terms of skill. I think Caitlin Clark is more wow because of her deep threes, so the games are similar. But I think like Maya Moore to an extent, Brianna Stewart and Diana, I guess you say Diana Taurasi too, but like Diana Taurasi and Maya Moore, I feel like their games, if it was now, because everything now is so digital and everybody is like the way of how TV is, and there's more support with women's basketball is getting. So Caitlin Clark is she's a legendary player and she's in the perfect time. It's like a perfect storm.
Beneficiary.
I do think if they were to switch and had Maya or Diana, I do think the sport would still be pretty high. And to UConn being that brand and them actually winning the championships, like, you know, people have fatigue. Like South Carolina's going to start experiencing that when nobody's going to want them to win next year because they win it too much. But I'm just saying in terms of the styles, I do get them being like, they're feeling a little bit more attacked because it's like, dude, you know, we won and we actually won and then we went to the league and turned up too. Like Diana Taurasi is like almost is like considered to go. So I get it. Like, it's just like, dude, if I was Diana, I get it too. Like, I don't want to hear nothing about I know she's going to help the league, but I ain't trying to hear none of that. You ain't done nothing I've done. And I'll see you at 41 years old when we play. Ball up. Like, that's how she's thinking. I get the mentality, but to your point, Zoo, like, it's helping the game.
So here's the thing. Why do you think Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain were so adamant when people started bringing up Michael Jordan and LeBron James? Because they're the same situation.
Yeah.
They have no...
Even though they're not as good, I don't think they're
because I'm sorry, you can't decide when you're born. You can't decide when you're born, and you can't decide the game how it is perceived before you get there, right? So that's why I said you can't blame Caitlin Clark or be mad. Because
I'm not blaming her. I'm just
I know, right? No, I'm talking about from Diana and Sue Bird. Maybe not as much. It was definitely more on Diana.
It was definitely more Diana.
It was definitely Diana, right? So I'm just thinking,
was not shocked by what she said.
Look, Diana, she's still. I know that they don't make that much, but she's still the highest paid WNBA player of all time. She's got her own show. She's clearly getting into the analysis. She's getting into the analysis part of the game when it's growing. She's a first mover in that. You're fine. All right. You accomplish.
She just insecure talking a little bit.
Her accomplishments should be enough for her. If she's feeling that pressure, that's on her, man. You got to be able to just take it in stride.
Yeah. But I will say,
her and Lisa Leslie are probably two of the GOATs, man. I remember Lisa Leslie in Backyard.
Cheryl Miller was another one that was insane too. Cheryl Miller was. I mean, Reggie Miller has gone on record a million times saying he's not the best basketball player in his own family.
Yep,
like he always says that, and he has a point because Cheryl was crazy. But you know, like I said, salute to South Carolina. Yep. I'm super excited because Dawn Staley is. When I think of like a coach and how I want them to represent a university, it's great to see like. Yes, she's proud of her team and she's dominant, but like you said, she gives her flowers to Caitlin Clark. She gives flowers to the other teams. And that's part of a bigger message of like growing the game of women's basketball. Because women's basketball, I keep saying, it's going to keep evolving. Like it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like 5 to 10 years now, just in terms of athleticism. Because then if I think the athleticism gets like really, really to a high level, you know, they're gonna be better than men's basketball. Because if men keeps having a one and done rule, like you said, respect to Zach Edey and UConn. Like, I'll be honest, I don't care and crap about UConn outside of, it's cool to see they repeat it, but I don't care. I don't know none of their players. Klingland, and we know him because we follow basketball. Yep. I could go outside and don't nobody know Klingland. And like the results are like showing, like when these girls are here for 4 years, like the two top South Carolina girls, like Tessa Johnson, she's got the NIL deal with Clutch Sports. Malaysia Fulwale's got the shoe with Curry. They're freshmen. They're going to be here for another 3 years. Yep. They can't leave early. So it's like you're going to be familiar with their games, their brands. You're going to grow with them. And like you said, if South Carolina win next year, now you're going to be rooting. Probably most Americans will be rooting. Like, okay, let's get South Carolina out of here. Like, you know, Fulwale and Tessa's been winning. Like, let's get them out of here. Like, you're going to have that, you know, going from the lovable team with Don to like, okay, now you might be the villain. So it's like it's just and other teams are going to rise up. So
I think teams like Indiana, Sean, are going to just continue to. They've been growing the past.
It's too many good basketball players now.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But you know, South Carolina just for another side note. Joyce Edwards is coming in, number 2 recruit. The number 1 recruit is going to UConn. Sarah Strong, who's like, she's built like a power forward, but she can shoot like a 2 guard. It's kind of crazy. And then Joyce Edwards, she's from South Carolina locally. Dawn Staley actually had to create a major in the honors college to get her to come. She's majoring, I think, environmental engineering. And then the honors college, I think you can like build your own kind of major. So she was able to get that.
That's pretty cool.
She got a 5.0. So she's a. I don't know if she's going to start next year, but she might be a dog for them. So, like I said, I'm not. There's no way I was going to be logical and balanced with this, And like I said, salute to Caitlin Clark. I think when she goes to the Fever and teams up with another South Carolina number 1 pick, Aaliyah Boston. I'm gonna watch a few games next year. I'm gonna watch.
I'm going to the game in June, man. But here's the thing. I haven't bought tickets yet because here's the thing. If she plays for the Olympic team, got to remember the Olympics are this summer, and I don't want to pay $100 for a WNBA ticket, man, and then her not be there.
I forgot.
No way.
Yeah, it is.
So
no.
I got the tickets saved on my Vivid Seats app, man. I'm gonna monitor it and see when she.
Shout out to Vivid Seats. Sponsor the pod if you want to. It's a nice little plug. That'd be nice. What is it? SeatGeek or who is it?
Yeah, they're all owned by like Ticketmaster or something like that. So.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that because they're probably all owned by the same company. So I shouldn't disparage one to build up another. But salute to the women's game, the men's game. Basketball season in college is officially over, and NBA is here. But real quick, NFL. The draft is at the end of this month, and it's. I know I was just saying the NBA draft is going to be pretty bad, but the NFL draft definitely have some movement. It's going to have some movement. It's going to have some shakers, some, people maybe drafting, going backwards, getting assets, things of that nature. So I wanted to ask the guys, and we're just going to kind of keep this in the first round, of some players and some teams that you think would be perfect fits together. And Zoo, you can start this off.
Oh, man. P. Bush, man, I'm going to go with one of your teams, man, because I'm real interested. Because obviously everybody know what the number 1 pick, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we ain't talking about that. I'm looking at that 10th overall pick, and what did they?
Me too.
Or 9th overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the wide receiver, baby. Like Sean said, you can never have too many wide receivers. You can never have too many, especially Keenan Allen. The dude's old, man. The dude's old. They got a nice year. Yeah, I know exactly. He can walk the next year, so it's pretty much a 1-year rental. It's a 1-year rental to help your rookie quarterback to
maybe a franchise tag. Yeah,
exactly. Like it's a temporary solution. It's a little Band-Aid on a little injury that it ain't gonna fix it. Mm-hmm. So give me a Dunze. Give me a Dunze, man. Like this guy might get a quarterback drafted on how well he played. That's all I gotta say.
It's true.
Like Washington, I didn't know nothing about Washington. Like I'm telling you right now, like these rookie wide receivers are immediate impact. There's not much learning curve from college football to NFL professional football. And what I gotta say, the Bears' expectation is right now 10-11 wins. That's the expectation.
Whoa!
What?
Yeah, I said it.
What?
Yes.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes,
is that you or you've been reading that?
No. That's my expectation.
That's crazy.
I got 9, Zoo. I got 9. I gotta give Caleb a little bit of time, man. Little time.
Yeah. Caleb, take some notes from C.J. Stroud, man. You're coming to a better situation than that Texans situation. That's, I think, objectively true.
No, that's true.
Because the Texans, they got that number 2 pick. They got that number 2 pick by losing. The Bears got that number 1 pick by fleecing. So first of all, you're not going to a team that had like less than 5 wins. That's number 1. The Bears was like, you got mid. They were a little below mid team.
7-10, yeah.
Exactly. It's a 7-win team. And I'm just asking you to add 3 wins. 3. Is that too much to ask?
Dude, they blew 3 leads.
I remember there were a lot of competitive games that the Bears couldn't get it done and close the game. So I'm asking you to get 3 wins. I know you're supposed to be a transcendent quarterback. It's time to win now because you know what they say about rookie. You don't know what they say about rookie contract quarterback. That is the window. Getting a rookie contract quarterback so you can use all that extra money to spend on other players and build your team and win now. And we see teams like the Texans right now going for Stephon Diggs because they're trying to win now because they know they got that dude. You got to go for it now because when you got to pay that quarterback that Dak money, good luck building the rest of that roster. So I think Chicago Bears in the next 3 years, you should try to go for a Super Bowl immediately. And I think right now, offensively, they're obviously tooling up because defensive last year, that wasn't the problem. Second half of the year, they looked
scared. The Monsters of Midway will be fine.
Yeah, they looked quite good last year on defense. Like offense was the issue.
They'll be fine. That's their calling card.
Yeah, that was the issue. The offense is the issue.
You
got a new quarterback. You got a new wide receiver. You draft another guy, a potential sudden Nduze. You got Keenan Allen in camp. My God, you got DeAndre Swift, a pass catching back.
Cole Kmet, yeah.
Cole Kmet. You got Gerald Everett. I want to see some explosion on offense, and I have very high expectations for Caleb Williams. If you're going to be painting your nails, I want 40 touchdowns. Oh, my God. You can paint your nails, paint rainbows
30.
About.
Let's start with 30. I
want 40.
Yeah, Zoo was he must have some futures or something. I don't know.
I'm going to buy some futures, man. I'm telling you right, I will. But if you're going to be painting your nails pink and blue or whatever, I want 40 touchdowns and I want a playoff berth. That's what I want. I don't care if it's a wild card. It's a wild card. I'll take it. I want a playoff berth.
10 wins.
10 wins.
Pretty much what you're saying.
10 wins, man. I'm telling you right now. That's my expectation.
They could.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zoo, let me ask you this, man. Do you think that's if let's say it all meshes well, that's got to be entering the season a top 5 talent room in the league.
Oh yeah. You look at skilled position. The offensive line a little shaky, but if you look at skilled position, that's insane.
You could argue that they actually have more talent at the skill position than the Chiefs do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, you talking if they were to draft Udunze?
If they were to draft another wide receiver.
Udunze or
Because with the addition of Swift and Keenan, with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet.
DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. Yeah, that is a loaded. That is a loaded.
And people forget they're still keeping Khalil Herbert too, who's proven to get 100-yard games here and there.
He's a backup.
Roshan Johnson. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay, touche. But
Hey, man, sleeper fantasy, baby.
Look, if I'm being completely honest, Zoo, I agree with you. I think they should take Odunze if he's there at 9. With all the movement possible in this draft, it's possible that he doesn't fall that far.
Yeah, we hear a lot of quarterbacks, people trying to trade up to get quarterbacks.
Trading
so
up.
Hopefully that moves skill position down and the Bears could get their guy.
That's what I'm saying. I hope so. But if they don't, I'm fine with trading back and taking an edge rusher because that's really their only other major need, I think, is shore up the offensive line a little bit. Edge rusher. They need a second edge rusher opposite of Montez, and they need a third wide receiver because, to your point, Keenan could walk. He's a free agent after the 2024 season. Maybe they sign him to a 1 or 2 year deal. I could see it if he stays healthy. But health is also an issue, right? So if this guy can learn under DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, whoever this may be, if Odunze is gone, maybe it's Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, and maybe they trade back a couple spots, get an extra second or third rounder, and then take him. I'm fine with it. Just get a body in there, man, who's a proven solid wide receiver talent. So I wouldn't trade past Brian Thomas Jr., though. That is the one thing I would caveat. Because after that, it starts to get a little bit, you're taking shots on kind of like a Quentin Johnston type of guy.
Oh, geez. You don't want to take shots at those guys.
And I'm going to leave that in, Zoo, because I got my team right here sitting at number 5. The Los Angeles Chargers, man. What do they need to do? Because, man, they lost everybody.
They need they got a lot of holes.
They picked their battles, right? In the cap space issue, they said, look, this is such a talented wide receiver pool this year. We're going to lock up our edge rushers and let everyone else go. They got a 4th rounder back for Keenan, obviously. But I'm looking at this team, man. They do have needed offensive line. They don't need defensive line, which is a very top-heavy portion of this draft, kind of in the middle area, I guess. They obviously don't need a quarterback, right? So they could trade back to that 8 to 13 range. I think the Vikings I've seen have been a pretty big trade candidate for that 5th spot to take J.J. McCarthy. I don't know why you do that. I think he might be sitting back there at 13, or you could take Penix Jr. and probably have a similar outcome as J.J. McCarthy. I don't think there's that much of a gap between those two guys. But for the Chargers, man, if they stick to 5, which I think they should, they got to take Malik Neighbors, man. They have to take Malik Neighbors. He is, if you look at most projections right now, they got obviously Caleb 1. I've seen flips between May and Daniels going to the Commanders, with the other one going to the Patriots if they decide not to trade back. And we all know what the Cardinals, if they don't trade back, are probably going to take Marvin because they lost Rondale Moore and Marquise Brown, right? So they're also very much in the similar Chargers situation where they need to fill their wide receiver room. But it all comes down to if they believe in Quentin Johnston and they decide to pass, I'd be shocked. I think he'll have a better second year. I don't think he's going to be a complete bust purely because they don't have many other people to throw the ball. Gerald Everett too.
I agree with you. It can't get any worse because he was god awful last year.
It can't get any worse. And you got to remember, he was behind 2 solid.
But when they got injured,
and then
Mike Williams got injured, he didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything.
And he didn't do anything.
Nerves. And then Herbert went out, right? Yeah. And then Herbert got hurt. So I think they got to – he's not a wide receiver 1. Maybe he's better in that wide receiver 2 Mike Williams type role instead of, Malik Neighbors' potential, wide receiver 1.
I think they got to do it, man. But if they do trade back, then they have to go to tackle. They have to shore up their offensive line because Herbert was getting berated last year, even with his ability to move around in the pocket. And you paid this man, protect him, right? You got to make sure that he can actually last through this contract and you can get full use out of him. They're not in a full rebuild because they do have their quarterback. Yeah. But they're lucky that they're with the Raiders and the Broncos right now in that AFC West fighting for second place, right? We got the Chiefs obviously up there at top. But the Broncos and Raiders are not in good situations either, and they're missing the biggest piece, which is quarterback. That's the one thing the Chargers have up on them. So I think they got to focus offensive side of the ball. If they can, take a wide receiver one, preferably Neighbors. If not, got to go G.O.A.T or the kid out of Oregon State, the other tackle.
Yeah. I wonder with the Chargers, like, because I feel like they're devoid of so much stuff, I wonder if it's just like maybe they trade back because there are like at least 3 tackles that are kind of, because I think Joe Alt's kind of considered the number 1 tackle, but it's like maybe they can trade back to an area maybe in that, I don't know who, like 8
to 15,
8, yeah, whatever. Maybe you can trade back to 10, 11, 12, whatever. And you could get like another tackle like the guy from Oregon State and then maybe get another receiver, just because I do agree they need to get Neighbors at 5, because if you kind of want to look at past history, look what the Bengals did. They had a choice to get the tackle from Detroit or Jamar Chase, and it was like, well, let's take Jamar Chase. Now, nobody's comparing Malik Neighbors to Jamar Chase, but the theory of getting a receiver 1 for your budding quarterback, like, that's important.
Yeah.
So I do agree they should go Neighbors because you just need that type of skill around Herbert. Because to Zoo's point, I just Quentin Johnson to me just seems like a guy who did 2 or 3 is like his highest. Like maybe I don't know he's gonna be out of the league, but like I think he's a 2 or 3 receiver. Like and I think he needs a dominant number 1. And that's not to say Mike Evans or Keenan Allen weren't dominant, but it's like just a new fresh guy who could be their true number 1, and then Quentin could just play off of that. But for me, speaking of the AFC West, I do feel like with that division, we know it's Kansas City. But if you're going to play with Justin Herbert, you're going to play with Patrick Mahomes, Denver's more than likely going to get a quarterback, and it's Sean Payton. So, like, I just assume if whoever he drafts or they draft, they're going to be manageable. You need to go get your quarterback. And I think the Raiders need to do everything they can where they are to try to get a guy like Michael Penix. I think they need a guy who is a efficient passer. They need a guy who knows how to move outside the pocket. I mean, if you looked at his pro day, he ran like a 4.5, 4.4. Like, he's an athlete. Now, that wasn't his. Now, I wouldn't say he's a shifty lateral type of athlete, but I think he can, in a straight line, if he has to, run to get a first down, he can do that. I get the injury concerns, but I truly believe, man, if you just watching how the throws he makes, if he didn't have those ACLs, I think he would be the number 2 quarterback. I think he would probably be above Jaden Daniels because he's just that good of a passer. I think he's that good of a passer, and the reason why he's not that high is because of the ACLs. I get it if the medicals don't check out, and because the NFL teams do the medicals before the draft. If they don't check out and they say, "Look, I wouldn't take this guy," then you just can't. But I think them having Devontae Adams, keep him happy. Michael Mayer's a decent option. I'm not sure what their draft situation is. Hopefully they can kind of stand. I think they're in the middle of the draft, and I think Michael Penix has been kind of factored in to be later in the draft. Just, if he's slotted to go 6 or 7 slots later, just draft him early. Get a guy, because you all of these teams, it don't matter really who you are. You can amass the talent, but especially like say if the Raiders were in the AFC South, I'd be like, just draft a bunch of good players and get your quarterback, get them whatever you can, because there's not a lot of competition in that division. When you're talking about the AFC West, like, you got to have a dude that can at least go to war with Patrick. Not saying you're going to beat Patrick, but he can have an off day. He can have an off game. He could get injured, knock on wood. Like, and if you got a guy that can at least get you, if you got a guy that could be competent and, he's going to be a young quarterback, he's going to have to learn and grow, but Michael Penix is also, I think, 24, 25. He's older. A lot of these quarterbacks are older. So it's like, I think they might have a little bit more of a chance to come in if they're really, I guess as good as they say they are, to have a chance to make a big impact. Getting a guy like Michael Penix for the Raiders, like, so you already got to establish number 1. Now, they're obviously going to have to need to draft some other receivers because I don't know who the hell they got after that. Like I said, they got the tight end, and they don't have Josh Jacobs anymore. So it's kind of like I don't know who they have.
Zamir White.
Some people would say they need to. Yeah, Zamir White. He might be he's good though. Like I think he might
Sleeper
be a nice
He was very good at the end of the year.
bell cow.
Zamir White was very good.
You're right, people. She's sleeper for sure.
Sleeper next year.
But yeah, I think they need to get a quarterback because I'm not high on Bo Nix. I don't think he's all that. And I like to your point about JJ McCarthy. I'm just not a fan of guys who doesn't have that.
Screams Mac Jones.
When people try to say, well, he wasn't required to throw the ball because he only had to make a couple. They're like, no, I don't. No, I need to see actual reps of you throwing down the field, making like Michael Penix has got a lot of elite level throws. It's on tape. I don't want to see the guy saying, well, John Harbaugh, this is system. Like, no.
Well, Sean, let me put it to you this way. This is a funny comparison. Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft, and he's had success. And I know we have our Brock Purdy discussions. The man set records offensively at Iowa State.
Played 4 years,
all 4 years, and he was known, and he was the last pick in the draft. JJ McCarthy did not even come close to those stats, but it's just because they were in the national championship game.
And he's got kind of elite measurables. Like he's like 6'3" and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
I get the hype, but I need to see. Yeah. Like Mark Sanchez, he was another guy. What he played at USC for, and I'm not saying he played only 1 year at Michigan, but it's like he had limited sample of like how much he played. And yeah, he got him to some AFC championship games, but that was just because of the defense. Like it wasn't because of him. And I think if you're drafting that high, like that's why I've seen some discussion of like, I know Minnesota's been fixated on McCarthy, but they're doing, I've seen stuff where they're trying to figure, like it's them and somebody else. It might have been Oakland, or not Oakland, but Vegas too. Like they're trying to see if they could get Jaden Daniels. Like, and that, like if Jaden Daniels got to Minnesota, like, sorry, people. It's like I love Caleb Williams, but I think what they got right now, I'm not saying it would be you guys would be done for, but that'd be a clash because you also got Jordan Love sitting up there in Green Bay. But I'm not ever mad at the team that's aggressive to go get their quarterback. I just think with JJ, he might be a boom or bust. I just don't like the guys who don't have a lot of high level throws, like. Because they were. I saw some video where he was making some of, I don't know who they were playing, but he made some throws, and a lot of it was like, it was kind of like, you know how like if you throw between like a window and it's kind of just like the defender is not aware, and it's not like you made a high level throw because you placed it somewhere. It's just it was kind of a luck where like you just got caught. It's kind of like because you can tell by the receivers like, oh, the ball's right here. I didn't know it was coming right there. Like I saw a lot of those type of throws. It wasn't like Penix where it was like placement throws. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I'm excited. I'm so excited because I don't think it's going to be chalk in terms of what the order is. I think it's going to be a crap load of movement. And to your point, someone like Brock Bowers is going to fall somewhere, and somebody's going to get a gem with a player like that. So make sure you guys tune in.
Jets at 10. The Jets are sitting at 10.
They need offensive line.
They don't need it. Yeah, I was going to say they need to protect Aaron Rodgers. He's old. He's old and brittle. He's old and brittle.
Yeah. It might be enticing though, because you get Bowers in that offense. Like they got Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson. Like, oh my God, like Breece Hall. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
that's the battle you have to take because it's like you either take the lineman, protect the asset, or you get the explosive receiver. So you gotta make tough decisions. But we'll be following and tracking the draft on Instagram. Make sure you follow us at Tyson Talks _ We got all kind of coverage. A couple profiles I'll put up there of like, I guess, some of the first round players. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts is where you can listen to us. Make sure you review and rate us. Give us 5 stars. YouTube, Quantrell knows. I post usually the video the day before, the day after I post the audio. So make sure you guys are just tuned into our links on all those platforms so you can listen, and watch to all the good content that we put up. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are.